When I was 12, my parents told me to figure it out and drove off, leaving me stranded 80 miles from home at a gas station. I slept behind a dumpster that night. I never looked back. Until last week, when my brother's wedding invite came tucked with a handwritten note from them. My name is Isaac, and I'm 30 years old. Time has a strange way of sharpening certain memories, of making them more potent rather than dulling them. I've never talked much about my childhood, not because I've forgotten, but because speaking of it makes it real again. It transports me back to being 12, standing in that gas station parking lot, clutching a candy bar I couldn't pay for, watching my parents' taillights fade into the August night. It happened just before school started. We'd been on one of my mom's forced family bonding trips. In our family, bonding meant enduring my dad's angry monologues, which were treated as pearls of wisdom, and my older brother Caleb's every thought being hailed as a brilliant insight. I was the quiet one, the sensitive one, the one who was always in the way. On that particular day, I'd spilled a Sprite in the back seat. Caleb, a master of shifting blame even at 16, smirked and said I did it on purpose. My dad pulled over at the next gas station, his eyes blazing. "You're not a baby anymore," he barked. "You want to act grown. You can find your own way home." At first, I thought it was a sick joke, but the back of the SUV slammed shut, and they drove away. I ran after them, my voice cracking and disappearing beneath the roar of engines. A gas station clerk, cigarette dangling from his lips, saw me as just another nuisance. That night, I slept behind the station's dumpster, my heart pounding with every passing car. 80 miles from home, with no money or phone. I counted the R's. The clerk refused to help, muttering, "Ain't a daycare, kid." I didn't cry. That night, a part of me froze, the part that believed family was something unshakable. The next morning, I found a payphone and called Mrs. Valencia, a teacher I trusted. She drove all the way to pick me up. I told her my parents must have forgotten me, but the way she gripped the steering wheel told me she didn't believe it. She just dropped me off, made sure I had food, and told me I could always call her. When I walked through the door, there was no surprise, no apology. My mom simply glanced up from her laptop and said, "Took you long enough." Caleb, playing video games on the couch, muttered, "Should have walked faster." My dad acted as if nothing had happened, nodding at me at breakfast the next day. That's when I stopped trying to belong. I finished high school like a ghost, eating lunch alone and studying in silence. The moment I turned 18, I left, working 3 jobs to put myself through community college before transferring to a university across the country. I never gave them my new number or address. I started breathing on my own. For the past decade, I've built a life they know nothing about. I became a software engineer and moved to a city where no one ever tells you to man up as a cure for trauma. I'm a good friend, and I've adopted a rescue dog named Max, a timid mutt who flinches at loud noises. We understand each other. I never expected to hear from them again, but a letter arrived last week. No return address, but the loopy, dramatic handwriting was my mom's. Inside the thick envelope wasn't a threat, but a wedding invitation from Caleb, engraved in gold. Tucked inside was a handwritten note. "Isaac, we know things have been distant, but Caleb is getting married, and it would mean a lot to the family if you could attend. We hope you'll come, we'd love to reconnect." Just like that, as if they hadn't left me to rot behind a dumpster 18 years ago and never apologized. As if Caleb hadn't always been the golden boy whose shadow I could never escape. My fingers tightened. Around the paper I almost threw it away, but then I paused. The invitation was for Stone Brook Vineyard and Lodge, a place of upper-middle-class perfection. The Kensingtons, Emily, or Kensington's family, were local royalty, old money, old grudges. I remembered Emily as the kind of girl who was given attention like an inheritance. Of course, Caleb had landed her the charming quarterback, his parents orbiting him like a sun. I found their wedding website. The love story section was so polished, it could have been written by a PR firm. It said Caleb was a guy who believed in fate, but nothing prepared him for Emily. The way she looked at him and saw more than just the guy I used to be. I reread that line 3 times. More than the guy you used to be. The old Caleb was a bully, a liar with a halo. The same boy who pushed me into a pond at my 12th birthday party and told our parents I slipped. I had to walk home soaked while everyone ate cake. They laughed about it for years. I hadn't planned to go, not until I read that line. Caleb was rewriting his history, pretending he left no collateral damage. I wouldn't RSVP online. That was too easy. Instead, I used a friend in logistics to get a custom-fit midnight blue suit, something out of a James Bond film. I booked a room at the same luxury hotel under a different name. I didn't want them to know I was coming, not yet. If they wanted to pretend the past didn't exist, I'd show them how to play the game. 2 weeks before the wedding, I emailed the RSVP address, which was Emily's. Looking forward to the celebration. Please don't mention I'm attending. I'd like to surprise the happy couple. I got no reply, but it was marked as read. The day before the wedding, I arrived at the vineyard. It looked like a movie set. I watched the rehearsal dinner from a quiet corner. My mom looked thinner, her laugh brittle. My dad's face was puffier, like life had finally started pushing back. They were all smiles, shaking hands with Emily's parents and praising Caleb. Then Caleb turned, and our eyes met for the first time. In nearly 2 decades, his face dropped not enough for anyone else to notice, but I saw it. The flicker of what is he doing here. He raised a glass at me, then quickly turned away. I knew he hadn't told them I was coming. I slipped out before the toasts, my heart buzzing with anticipation. They had asked me to be a part of the family again. I was about to show them what that meant, and I hadn't even said a word. The wedding morning was filled with mist and tension. I hadn't slept, my mind replaying the cold pavement behind the dumpster and Mrs. Valencia's worried face. I ironed my shirt, pressing out every crease like a scar. Then, I took out the faded photo of 12-year-old me, taken by Mrs. Valencia the morning she picked me up. She had mailed it to me years later with a note, "You survived." I slid it into my breast pocket, close to my heart. At the ceremony, I kept to the back. My parents were in the front row, beaming. Caleb stood under a floral arch, and then Emily appeared, perfect and glowing. The ceremony was short, the vows predictable. A collective sigh of relief filled the air after they kissed. The reception was where it all began to unravel. Inside the glass-walled hall, chandeliers hung like frozen waterfalls. My seat card didn't exist. I walked over to my parents' table, where an empty chair with a reserved for family card sat next to them. "Oh, you made it," my mom said, sipping wine. "Apparently," I replied. Dad just looked at me, his expression unreadable. Mom shrugged off the missing seat card as a mistake. I spotted Caleb. He saw me and walked over. "Hey," he said, his voice low. "Glad you could make it." "No thanks to you," I replied. He exhaled. "I didn't think you'd actually come. I asked Mom and Dad to invite you, but I figured you'd just toss it and move on, like you always do." I looked at him, at his perfectly groomed confidence. "I came because I wanted to see if you remembered," I said quietly. "Remember what?" Instead of answering, I pulled out the photo and held it up. He swallowed, his eyes darting from the picture to my face. "That was years ago," he said. "Yes," I said, "and you never said a word. Never told them to turn back. Never checked if I made it home." He looked around, worried someone might hear. "Isaac, it was one bad night. You were dramatic even then. I thought you were over it." "Over it," I said, my voice hardening. "I'm not here to ruin your wedding. I'm staying until the speeches." His face fell. He knew I wasn't bluffing. Best revenge isn't loud, it's surgical. I had a toast prepared, one they'd never forget. When the toasts began, Emily's father gave a polished speech. The best man told funny stories. Then the MC took the mic again and announced, "And finally, we have a special toast from Isaac." The room went silent. My parents froze. Caleb's jaw tightened. Emily blinked in confusion. I walked to the mic, tapping it once. "Good evening," I said, my voice steady. "I'm Isaac, Caleb's younger brother." Heads turned sharply. "He has a brother." The words rippled through the stunned room. I wasn't sure I was going to come tonight. In fact, I haven't spoken to my family in 18 years. I got a wedding invitation out of nowhere. Just a note that said it would mean a lot to the family if you came. I let the words hang in the air. I held up the photo. This is me at 12 years old. This was taken the morning after my parents left me at a gas station 80 miles from home. I had spilled a soda. They told me to man up and figure it out. They never came back. I slept behind a dumpster. I never got an apology. The room was silent. I looked at my parents. My dad's face was pale. My mom's mouth was slightly open. "I'm not here to ruin anyone's evening," I said. "Emily, you seem lovely. Your family has been kind. And Caleb, you've always known how to put on a good face." His expression cracked for a moment. "But weddings are about honesty. It wouldn't be honest to pretend we were ever close, or that I grew up in a house where family meant protection, not survival." I looked at Caleb again. "I was invited to be a prop in your perfect day, a brother-shaped placeholder. So, consider this my gift to you." I placed the photo on the head table, right in front of him, a reminder of what family looks like when you turn your back on it. Then I walked away. No applause, just stunned silence. As I passed my parents' table, I heard my mom hiss my name. My father started to rise, but I didn't stop. I walked out, into the cool night, the music distant behind me. I wasn't angry, I was free, but freedom is a strange thing. It leaves a silence behind, a silence that makes you wonder what happens next. The drive back to the hotel was quiet. I walked down a vineyard trail, feeling the tension on spool from my chest. I had been a ghost in my own family, but tonight I had shown them I was real, flesh and blood and memory. A voicemail was waiting for me. "Isaac, it's Emily." Her voice low and brittle. "I wish someone had told me. I'm not mad you said what you did. You deserve to. I'm sorry." It was the first apology I'd received in 18 years, and it wasn't from my family. I left early the next morning, Then, something strange happened. People started reaching out. My cousin Hannah messaged me on LinkedIn, saying she'd heard the speech and always wondered why I disappeared. She apologized for never asking. Then Mrs. Valencia messaged me. I always wondered what happened to you. I'm so proud of you, Isaac. I cried that night for the first time in years. It was a quiet, aching release, the kind you feel after holding your breath for too long. My voice, the one they called too soft, too sensitive, had finally found its volume. It wasn't revenge, it was power. With every person I helped, every story I heard, every hand I shook, I felt that power grow. I knew Caleb had gone back to his new wife and polished reputation, but he didn't realize the ripple I'd started. I wasn't finished. Soon, I got an email from Emily again. This one was raw. Isaac, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Did they really leave you at 12? I asked Caleb, and he didn't deny it. He just said it was complicated. You didn't sound complicated. You sounded like someone who's been carrying something heavy for a long time. If it's true, I need to know more, please. She had every reason to shut the door and ignore me, but she asked for the truth. So I gave it to her. I told her everything. The gas station, the silence when I returned, putting myself through school, the way they cropped me out of the family photo. I didn't blame her or ask her to pick sides. I just gave her the truth. She replied the next day, I believe you, and I need time to process this. They never told me. Caleb said he was an only child until we got engaged. They erased you, and now I'm wondering what else they've rewritten. A week later, we met at a quiet cafe. She wore a hoodie and jeans, her eyes swollen. She asked, what else did they do? I told her about the big things. My mom forgetting my birthday. My dad refusing to co-sign a loan for me while giving Caleb money for a trip. She listened, not trying to defend them. Finally, she told me, Caleb called you a ghost at the wedding. He said you just vanished and always had a flair for the dramatic. I laughed. They didn't lose a son. I said, they buried one. She leaned in, whispering, what if they do that to our kids someday? Then, 3 days later, a letter arrived. No return address, but the rigid handwriting was my father's. Isaac, I don't know what you think you're doing. This isn't helping anyone. You're bringing shame on the family. Let it go. If you keep stirring things up, there will be consequences. We gave you a second chance to be included. Don't make us regret it. No apology, just a threat. I placed the letter next to the photo. 2 artifacts of the same legacy. I smiled. I had what I needed. Proof. I scanned the letter, backed it up, and called a journalist I'd met at a trauma panel. I'm ready, I told her. But I don't want to. Just talk. I want to show them. She asked how far I was willing to go. I looked at the note, the photo, and the invitation that tried to erase me. All the way, I said. The article, titled Left Behind, One Man's Quiet Escape from a Family That Tried to Erase Him, was published on a Tuesday morning. By noon, it had been shared thousands of times. The journalist, Claire Rousseau, had verified every detail. She interviewed Mrs. Valencia, confirmed the gas station incident, and spoke to my old landlord. The story included the photo, my wedding speech, my father's letter, and Emily's permission to mention her reaching out. It wasn't a tabloid story, it was truth, clean and unfiltered. That's why it exploded. People saw their own estrangement. In my words, their own moments of being dismissed or replaced. I received dozens of private messages from people who had been disowned, and as the messages poured in, I felt the true power of my voice. It wasn't revenge, but it was a quiet, powerful force, a testament to what happens when someone decides to stop being a ghost and start being a memory. I knew the fallout was still coming, but I was ready. I had found my voice, and now, a community of people who understood.